Hello again. So we're going to do exactly the same thing as last time. We're going to download our netcore data, but this time instead of using R, we're going to do it in Python. Now you'll see this time I'm not using Notepad++. I'm using something that comes preloaded as part of your Python installation. It's called idle. It's not the greatest of interfaces for using Python, but it comes preloaded. You should have it on your machine already, and it works. So let's start. The first thing we did with R was we loaded our library, which was called HTTR. We do a similar principle in Python, only the syntax and the commands are a little bit different. So we're going to type it like this: from url lib dot request space import URL open. Okay, so that is the equivalent of what was library HTTR in R. We're using this in Python. The next thing we did in R was we set up where is the data coming from. So we need our URL root and our URL end. I'll try to type it correctly this time. URL underscore root is given the value of http colon / www.stevepickering.net/neko. Right, so that's the beginning of the URL. We know that the end is also going to be .asp, so URL underscore end is given the value of .asp. In R, we used set working directory, setwd, to tell it where it was going to store all of the files. For this, we'll come up with a variable called my underscore path. So my underscore path is given the value of c colon / data / netcore / The reason I'm using the double backslash, as I said last time, is because I'm in a Windows environment. You don't do that on a Mac or in Unix. And I've ended the path there with //, otherwise it won't enter the netcore directory. Now we need to do the same thing that we did in R, which was to come up with a loop through which we will iterate. You will remember there are 11 chapters that we need to download. But watch. For I, that's our iterator, in range 1, 12. We say 12 because on the last time that Python iterates through something, it doesn't do anything. Just remember, every time you use Python, if you're going to do a loop, add on one more than you actually need. So we want 11 chapters, we put in 12. Okay? Now, Python's a bit unusual in that the white space actually has meaning. I've put a colon here. It doesn't actually need that, but I've put it in there anyway because it looks nice. Then it automatically puts a tab in for me onto the next line. So the white space has meaning in Python. Make sure you get the white space in. The input file name, input underscore file name, is given the value of the URL root, which is stevepickering.net/neko, URL underscore root. Now, in R, we pasted it together. When we paste something, or we use a different syntax in Python, this is called concatenation. That's the programming term. When we join things together, it's called concatenation. And the concatenation operator in Python is the mathematical plus sign, which ordinarily isn't a problem, but it's going to be a problem now. Because I need to add on the number I. So it's going to be URL root, stevepickering.net/neko, then the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, because we're using the plus sign, Python can get confused, because plus can mean stick these things onto each other, concatenate, or plus can mean add these things together. 2 plus 2 makes 4. What I'm telling it now is I'm saying take stevepickering.net/neko and add the number 1 or 2 or 3 to it. And that has no meaning because you're trying to take characters and add numbers to it. So the trick here is, if you are sticking together characters and numbers, you need to say, well, interpret those numbers as a string. And to do that, we type str, okay? So input file name equals the root, stevepickering.net/neco, added onto, bolted onto, the string version of I, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, plus, because we're not finished, the URL underscore end, which is .asp. Good. So we know what the input is going to be, the URL that it's going to get the data from. Where is it going to save it? Well, we need an output file name. Output file name is given the value of, so we already know what my path is, C data neco. So my underscore path, and then we're going to concatenate again with the mathematical plus operator. I'm going to call it a different name this time. Last time I just called it chapter. To make sure we get the right data, I'm going to call it Python underscore chapter. Okay, so Python underscore chapter. This is just to make sure we don't mix up the ones we already downloaded with R and the ones we are going to download with Python. So output file name is my path plus Python chapter, plus we want the number, and again we're going to need to use that string function. So stri, yeah, plus, and the file extension, the format it's going to come in is .html. Then, just for my benefit, so I can see what it's doing when it goes through this, I want to print it on the screen so that we can see that it's working. So I'll put print brackets output file name. The next thing we want to do is download the file and decode it. So the download bit first, we're going to type with, because we're going to be using a function called URL open, so with URL open, and the thing that we're going to open is the input file name as a file, and again the colon here, which means the next line is going to get tabbed in again. Content, the stuff that we're going to download, is given the value of file dot read brackets brackets, and then another function which is decode brackets brackets. If we don't use the decode, then it's going to come to us as binary data which we can't do anything with. So the decode function converts it into a usable form for us. So we need to have that decode in there. Then when we've got that, we just need to save it. So we're going to back up there, because the white space has meaning in Python. And we're going to say with, because again we're using a function, so last time it was URL open, this time it's open because we're opening a file. Open brackets output underscore file name, comma, W, because we are writing onto the file. Then this bit's important too, encoding equals UTF dash 8. We're using UTF-8 because the Neko text has Japanese characters. If we don't use UTF-8, it won't work. Okay, so we must use the UTF-8 encoding. Brackets as download, colon, and again the tab, download dot write brackets content. That should be it. Will it work? Let's save it. The function to do this in idle is F5. And the download. Okay, can you see what I did there? Typo. Encoding. Eon coding. Encoding. Save. And they are downloading. And if I bring up my window here, we will see Python chapter 4, Python chapter 5. And so they're downloading now. And it's got all of them. So let's try one of them at random. I'm going to try chapter 4, see what it looks like. And there we have our full text again. Once again, the formatting is all messy, the pictures aren't there or anything, but that doesn't matter. We don't need those, we just need the text. We did it! Right. The next thing we're going to do, but not in this video, is download data from the United Nations.